we are slowly nearing a future where we won't really use design softwares anymore and we will jump straight to code.
A lot of them is just literally adding the home bar at the bottom. They are just changing that into the liquid glass style and then doing pretty much nothing with the rest of the app. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Design Diner, a podcast where we talk about design news, rebrands, and pretty much anything that's happening in the design space every week. As always, I'm Adam, and with me here is also Adam. We have three interesting topics for today. First is a new project from Adobe, which is like sort of a graph-based editing tool, which should help you maybe like do 3D stuff, but in my opinion, could also help you with 2D stuff. We have some strong opinions on that. Then we want to discuss about liquid glass, how apps are using it, because Apple published their official article highlighting some interesting apps in the space. And lastly, we want to talk about designing in Framer. So not just Figma or dedicated design tools, but also Framer and how it's introducing itself into the space. Okay, do you want to maybe intro us a little bit into the first topic, because you work in 3D, right? So you have
Yes.
some experience using Blender, which also has like this sort of graph-based editing tool, which this basically is, even though it's like a different use case. So could you just intro us into what Adobe is doing?
Yeah, right. So, as far as I understood it, Adobe is rolling out a new product that will allow you to basically make a graph-based workflow. And if you don't know what that is, you have like imagine little tiny boxes that you connect together, and each little box has a lot of stuff inside of it, and you just tweak some inputs. So it's very easy to control the values and do some non-destructive dynamic workflows. I wouldn't. Well, you are correct, right, when you say that Blender has a graph-based stuff, but I wouldn't really compare these two together because it's very, well, sort of similar, but different use case in here because Adobe is using their whole suite for this graph node-based editing, and you have everything like preset, so there is nothing really you are creating from the ground up. You're more likely using the features from each of their product to tweak a source or something you want to do, in this case, an image uh, editing sort of, but it has more use cases, and just plugging effects on top of each other. The best explanation for it I have is when you have a photo and you're like laying layers on top of that photo. So this is what it is as of now.
Mhm.
So it looks like we are going into the AI era even more, and go way that direction. So what do you think about it, Adam?
Um, I mean, the fact that we are going more into the AI era is sort of like unavoidable, right? That's just gonna happen. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna be the best way to approach this, because everyone is generating AI images for some sort of use case, whether you're doing like generating whole photos for showcasing somewhere, showcasing your product, something like that, or generating landscapes, perhaps just background patterns. Uh, there are so many ways to use it. Some are way better than others. For example, recently I used it for like very small illustrations on a site where we had it's basically a towing service, car towing service, and we had like a huge form where you could select the types of services. And I figured, why not add like little illustrations indicating what each service is. The illustrations are very small, they are like very stylized, so you can't really tell that it's even AI. I mean, I could not tell, but it took me so long to create them because consistency is always an issue with AI. And I ended up basically just having 100 chats, copy pasting prompts, and trying to get the output that I wanted. So right now I think it's very we still have not, even though we figured out how to do fairly good photos, I would say, for certain use cases, we did not figure out a very good way to actually create them at this point. So I'm curious how it's gonna turn out, what tool is gonna win, and what interface will end up using, right? Because you have so many interfaces for different editing styles and apps. For AI, it's still like very uncertain. And sort of like this graph-based editing tool. I mean, it seems like it has potential. I have not actually really explored any yet. There are like two others I know out there, but they're very expensive, so I did not really had a chance to test them. I know Figma is also introducing one. They bought like a different company, and now Adobe. So yeah, it's very interesting to me. I'm not 100% convinced. Like if it's gonna be good for iterating, if it's gonna. I like the non-destructive part that you don't have to redo the whole thing. You can sort of go in steps, right? You can try and figure out some basic thing, and then for example, in black and white or like a sketch, and then you can turn it into different styles or color it, something like that. But I'm still maybe missing the some good way to iterate on things in this sort of tool. So yeah, but it's difficult to say without me trying it.
Yeah, I'll probably be on the other side, and I say I have a lots of issues with it, and I don't like this. I mean, I think it's super lazy and takes all the fun out of it. What I will give you and what I agree on is I think this is good for those quick effects. So they showcase like pixelated effects or some of those similar kind of things. I think that's a good thing to have quickly on hand because nowadays, if I need anything like that, I sort of just jump into V0 or anything and vibe code it for myself for a certain use case, like jitter, pixelation, or like fluid stuff that I need on mouse hover or to showcase to you. So maybe for that, I think it's a good use case. For everything else, I think this is super lazy and bad because I don't see how you will scale this up for bigger projects.
Mhm.
As you said, with the AI, we have a lot of issues with consistency, and all of the renders they showed look like shit. I mean, let's be
Yeah,
honest. They could probably like do a little more work when you are presenting that, so it doesn't really look like AI, right? But it's colorful and it moves, so I'll give them that. But I think that we are nearing an age where with AI you can do a lot of stuff without actually knowing the basics and foundations. And this is the same principle. Like for me, I do 3D, I do drawings, I doodle a lot and explore a lot of different stuff just to learn the concepts, lighting, and all the very basic foundational stuff. And with this, you sort of skip it and you can just jump into everything. So it will produce a lot of slop as any AI is, and most people are. For some cheap you know, Upwork kind of things, it's probably good. But I think this is the same equivalent to me like using AI for mood boarding. Like, why would you do that? You know.
Hmm.
And then there is one more issue I have with it. It's Adobe. So you have to probably purchase a tier or whatever subscription because it uses the whole suite. So there are some pros and cons, mostly cons for me, but it all depends on the workflow and what kind of projects and how you like to approach it. I don't want to throw just dirt on these tools because I know how much work and money this took. I also believe that there's some good tools, note like graph based. Gleb Kuznetsov has one for like 4 years now, been
Hmm.
testing. Very similar, but you could like create websites and like quick use cases with it. So yeah, we will see. But I saw a lot of backlash on socials from like the more respective creatives that they just don't really like this because it's very hard to do this without a basic foundation.
Do you think this is gonna like produce you know because you talk a lot about foundations, and I definitely agree that this is going to produce a lot of bad content from people that would would otherwise not create any content at all in this space yet, and they would perhaps like have to go learn the basics, and the few that would stick to it, right, would eventually produce good content. But do you think this is going to lessen the amount of people that end up doing the good content? Because of course this is going to produce a lot of slop, like you said, but I think the people that are actually interested in it are the amount of them is still going to be the same, or maybe potentially I would say it could be more, because they get interested in it by these tools that make it seem simple, and perhaps they will discover that then it's like hard, but it could get them into it. And eventually, in my opinion, the people that produce the slop won't get hired anyway. Uh, it won't really get them anywhere yet, and it could get more people into the basics and funnel them through into like more advanced. But I don't know. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance, right? Like, there will probably be a few people that, if they want to play with this and get good at it, like, go on, and they will probably be very, very quick and good at it, right? But there's still a lot of questions about like copyright, stealing, and all these kind of things, as it is with AI. So it really depends if this kind of workflow will drive the right people, because most of the people will just take it and will produce quick work for a quick buck, and probably steal some stuff they
Maybe.
like and like reproduce it and sell it over and over again, which I have like a huge problem with. But I can agree, I think, on the contrary, right, that we will see more good and better design as these tools come up, because I think most of the designers will either use the tool and try to fit it their workflow, and if it's a like really good designer, the work will obviously be good. But I think there will also be a lot of people that will just go the other way and ignore all of this and just produce amazing work to not be the same as everyone else, because I think as of now, it is mixing AI on top of AI, as far as I
Mhm.
understood it, with features from the Adobe suite. So the outcome is mostly in a certain style, or like you know what I mean, right? It will be sort of
Yeah.
all of the same but little different. So yeah, it's very hard to say who picks this up, and
Hmm.
I probably don't have a problem with people using this. If you use it and enjoy it, that's great for you. If not, then not, and be like me. But I'm excited what this could hold for the future, because I think we are slowly nearing a future where we won't really use design softwares anymore, and we will jump straight to code or whatever, and maybe like sketch a little on paper, because all of these tools are speeding up all of the workflow. And with if you have experience in the field already and can solve problems on the go, and if it's more complex, you can just sketch it on paper, but then you can jump into any vibe coding tool and start building in there rather than
Yeah.
doing it the old way. So I think this will only push it towards that.
Yeah, but also I would say that there are use cases where you don't really code, right? Like for example,
Yep,
they showcase a lot of branding stuff, or
yep,
not in that video specifically, but
yep.
for branding, you still have to do design software.
Yeah, I
Uh,
meant more websites and mobile
yeah, yeah.
apps. But
In
yeah,
that
yeah,
in that scenario, I agree with you. Uh, I think they did pretty bad job, by the way, of showcasing it
yeah.
in the Adobe
It,
video.
it, not
The
good. Yeah,
example was like, if you I don't want to, just show the video because someone might just be listening. So if you imagine like the most plasticky, I don't know, 2010, 2015, like look, that if you go like, if you type in cool 3D background on in Google search, that's like this sort of style that they showcase basically. Uh, and I saw a video from Figma where they showcased a similar tool. They did like very interesting, grainy, sort of like dreamy style. I found that
Yeah.
to be like a
They
lot
put a
better.
lot of work into all those marketing stuff. So I was fairly surprised that we were like they were showcasing this very obvious thing, but maybe that was the intention, right? Because most of the
Yeah,
people don't really know how to refine that AI workflow. So maybe this is how you sort of attract. Who knows?
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's check out the Apple Apple blog because I think that's much more interesting, and we can look at some actually well designed things there. So just to introduce, Apple, right, introduced liquid glass. We all know that at this point, but they a lot of apps already started adopting it into their layouts, their designs, and Apple decided to make like a little blog where they compare apps side by side and show off some interesting ones that adopted liquid glass. I'm gonna put it up on the screen share. Uh, yeah. All right. So a lot of them is just literally adding, for example, the home bar at the bottom, the navigation bar. They are just changing that into the liquid glass style and then doing pretty much nothing with the rest of the app. Maybe they're like adding some buttons that are floating. Some are more interesting and are like, for example, adopting gradients a little bit more, making the UI feel, I would say, maybe even more playful, sort of. For example, the watch. You can see that like the line has some sort of glow that makes it look more 3D, and the icons are like floating on top of it a little bit. Uh, yeah, but in general, I would say I did not see like any wow thing in here. A lot of them are just taking the existing UI and putting liquid glass effect on it, which I think is fine. But I'm also not sure if you know Apple actually shifted the design style in a way that is so important as they presented it, because they had like very bold claims. I remember when they introduced liquid glass. In the end, I feel like it's just the same UI but with liquid glass effect.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Have you had clients that wanted fully glassmorphic stuff?
Uh, no, I most of my clients don't like really uh, request very specific. Like no one came to me and said I want it to look like liquid glass, or I want it to look like material UI from Google or something like that. Usually they have like just very general directions. So no, did you?
Yeah, I've had last client. We were working on a mobile app, and he was like a huge, huge fan about this liquid glass kind of thing. So I found it to be a big challenge, honestly,
Mhm.
implementing a liquid glass into the normal UI. And you have to do a lot of tweaks, like a lot of tweaks to make it look good and readable. So, for example, the watches you've showed, that's a
Mhm.
good example of using it correctly. Like it enhances the interface, it looks nicer. Everything is still nice and readable. And this one is a great use case to to apply it on.
Mhm.
But the issue with it is that you have to play a lot with the opacity and the blur and everything else. So it is readable and looks nice. And
Mhm.
if you overdo it and make everything liquid glass, then everything will look kind of bad. So yeah,
Maybe
uh,
for people that did not get to design in liquid glass style, how much can you actually control about the effect?
most of it.
So
Like there's
like,
there's a pretty. I'm not sure how it is in you, but most of it is fairly nice and controllable. Like the blur, how much of the like distortion you want, should there be the chromatic abbreviation,
Mhm.
and all of like other stuff.
Do you think?
But
Sorry.
yeah, go
Do you
on.
think
Go on.
in some way maybe Apple gives too much control, because it feels kind of weird to me to introduce this like very specific effect and then let people control it that much, that in a way that it basically makes it look like entirely different thing.
No, but that's the thing that people aren't doing it.
Mhm.
People are just slapping the very basic one on it, and that's basically it. Yeah, this. I think it is very nice if it's used sparingly and on just some certain elements, like in the in the navigation when you like swipe from tab to tab, it makes a nice effect. Or in here, the slider looks very nice. Um, what I think it was very good for were the icons. So the app icons, or like the desktop icons, I think those got a nice little glow up.
Mhm.
Where yes, sure, it is more hassle to make those icons now because you have to like there's a different editor and all of that. But fully liquid glass interfaces aren't good and look very bad. So I had to push on the client a little with stuff that we were going into like make everything liquid glass, and I'm like, we
Mhm.
can't really do that. But on the other hand, he was pushing at me where I went like very minimal with the glass, and he like suggested some of the glass in some parts of the app, and I was like,
Mhm.
hey, this really works. I love that suggestion. Let's do that. So you really have to find the balance. Like in here in this example, the nav bar just looks horrendous. Like it
Yeah, right.
just that the whole thing is not good, right? So yeah, in
Yeah, it's
here
like
it would
very
probably
very
be
dark, right? The icons.
yeah. Who I don't think a liquid glass is like as like people aren't really doing it well. Who is doing it well is Face Studio. I'm not sure if you know who Face is or whatever.
I
They are
heard of
like
them.
finance. Yeah, they are a stock trading platform, and they got acquired by Valve Simple not so long ago. And their website has glass, not liquid glass, but glass. And that one is like top tier, most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So
Mhm.
yeah, it really depends on who is using it. But yeah, most, as you said, most apps just take it and convert it, and I think that's not the right
Mm.
way.
Yeah, and
I'm
like
not
most
sure.
of the
Like, are you sure? Do you know how hard it is to actually code in it?
no, but I would imagine it's you just you know s- coding apps for iOS is very they have the interface very opinionated. So a lot of times you can literally just drag in things or like flip a switch and it will use a certain effect. They don't really like let you code it in code usually, or if you can, you have to go out of the way to do it. So I imagine it's going to be very simple. It's probably going to be just flipping a switch on some box and then adjusting the values if you want.
Okay, all right.
Um, I sort of like this implementation. I feel like it was uh, like it actually changed some things more than just slapping effect on some icons, because here in the top example you can see they have like the icons are aligned more to the left. For example, the back buttons here are to the left above the calendar view, but in fact it's probably going to be interacting with the view on the right. And for the liquid glass, they actually moved the relevant icons above the relevant sections because they can just float above it, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's like interesting use case, but also you could have done that with just standard blur. But yeah, um, it's definitely nice.
Okay.
I like liquid glass more than blur, and when it's used in a nice way like this, it's very cool. But it's really funny when I was reading the showcase of the apps. Most of them, right, just have the navigation bar and the icons, and for each app, Apple wrote like a little description of what they changed, and you can feel them sort of slowly over time, running out of ideas on how to write. They just redid the home bar, and yeah, but that's a different topic.
Slack
Against Slack,
wasn't
for example.
Slack wasn't a good one that I really hate, and that's because I use it daily. I don't. It's so like look at this. You can't really see
Mm,
where is that field? Like how where am I typing even?
yeah.
Slack has been doing some very minimalistic and like I'd say bad decisions to make the app more minimal and like I don't know, seamless looking. They are hiding everything behind buttons. And I just want that stuff on one click. I don't need to search for that stuff. So sometimes it is not really a good thing
Yeah.
in this case. Like the chatting apps are super hard to introduce the liquid glass.
On the other hand, for example, the maps here, I think are a really good use case.
Yeah, yeah, there it doesn't really, and you can notice like most of the things that are using liquid glass are using pills. And pills are incredibly hard to work with because it throws off the visual balance of things. So if you scroll up to the calendar one, you can see
Yep.
that the pill on the liquid glass, right, above the forecast, it is aligned, but visually the chevrons and
Mm,
the liquid glass looks moved to the right because it is
yeah.
a pill and it makes it optically like little off. So it's very hard to like design. Oh, obviously you control it. Like you don't have to make everything a pill, but most of the stuff with liquid glass is a pill. So there's like a more another challenge on top of still challenging material. But I do like it, honestly. Like I was hating on liquid glass a lot. And I think with the right use case and like using it sparingly and really tweaking it and not like slapping the default one on, it is more immersive and good in some cases.
hmm I think the optical alignment is also why people hated the new Finder so much because they are using the effect there very heavily. If you know how that looks like, they're basically just putting all the buttons into like
Yeah.
their own little pills. It's very, I don't know, it's very prominent, very interesting. I don't mind it, but it definitely looks very different and kind of weird at first. Um, yeah, and for the liquid glass, I definitely like the effect too. What I don't like is now, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's only in the beta, but they are introducing like a switch where you can
I
turn the
think
liquid
it's
glass
out
into.
already.
Yeah, is it? Oh my
I
god.
think it is already out that beta was, or maybe not. Maybe the beta was like, I
Yep.
think last month, 10th or 12th or something like that. It was coming out, the iOS 26. But I think it's out due to one reason because Sketch redesigned their whole app into the liquid glass. And
Mhm.
it doesn't look bad. It actually looks like decent. And the team did an amazing work. I'm on Discord with the team and like in beta releases and all of this kind of stuff. So I have like I'm peeking into that.
Mhm.
And the whole team did an incredible job of exactly not this slapping the liquid glass on top of it and calling it a day. They like redid the whole interface, made sure that everything like matches and looks good and it's not overwhelming. So but they spent like 7 or 8 months on it. because they knew like that it will probably like come out and like with Apple and stuff. And then they released the liquid glass, and then Sketch had to redo it because they did it in a different way, I think. Or maybe I'm full of BS. Maybe it was like for 3 months, but they had to redo the whole thing they already had for the release because of the liquid glass. So,
Mhm,
but yeah,
because how it
yeah,
changed. Yeah.
yeah, it changed a lot, and then it like ruined most of the stuff. So
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm. Yeah, but the part I don't get is not them adjusting the liquid glass. Like I think that's all right. Like if you are gonna adjust it to be more readable, of course you should have done that before you released it. Like why didn't you do it before? But what I really don't like is them introducing the switch where you can turn it into frosted glass if you want, so that it reads better or it looks different. Like
yeah,
if you are gonna introduce this super opinionated style, then just stick to it, right?
just go with it. Yeah. But the frosted one is better, right? If you play with the blur and like blur it a little and like tone down on the distortions and everything, it actually looks like way better. I'm not sure how much you've played with liquid glass, honestly.
Well, I don't have an iPhone, so I only have it on my Mac OS,
Oh,
and I played
oh,
a
okay,
little in
okay,
Figma, so
right.
I know how
Yeah,
what you can change about it,
yeah.
but I
But in
don't have it.
Figma, have you like done like some fooling around?
Yeah, and I also pretty much everyone around me has like Liquid Glass on their iPhones, so I know exactly how it looks like. I just don't have not like played around with
Yeah,
the frosted
yeah,
effect.
yeah.
Okay, I think we exhausted this topic. So
Pretty
let's
heavily.
jump. Yeah, let's jump onto our last thing, which I sort of decided to slot in, and it's building brands in Framer, basically, which I saw like if maybe to intro this a little bit. Um, Framer has been sort of trying to dive into the design space more. Framer is a web development platform, no code tool, and it's very close to Figma. In fact, visually, like with the interface. Um, in fact, when I first showed it to someone at a company, they were asking about Framer, and I was like, sure, yeah, let's talk. And I was showing it to them, and the person I was showing it to is very familiar with Figma, but they're like just a product designer. They're sorry, product lead, another product designer. So at first when I showed it to them, they thought I was still in Figma for a moment because the interface is just so similar in a way that you work with it. And Framer has been, for many reasons, but I think that could be one of them, has been diving more into the design space. It recently introduced like what is it called? Like basically pages just for design, where you don't have to stick to web frames, to screen sizes, and you can just create frames in whatever way you want. You can just have totally free space, basically, where you can do anything you want. Uh, so they're trying to, grab grab the audience sooner, because right now you sort of just have to do it in Figma first and then put it into Framer. They are trying to skip that step and let you first design it, or sorry, design it in the Framer already. Um, and yeah, so the post I wanted to refer to is about trying to actually make whole branding in Figma, sorry, Framer, which I feel like we are still not there. I don't know if we are ever going to be. I would totally not do it, but with many workarounds, you can get mood boards in Framer now. You can create guidelines, brand guidelines. You can use the design pages to create some asset sheets, export things. And the reason I want to talk about this is because you can go and since it's a coding tool, basically, you can pull in different extensions and have things interactive, for example, in 3D, and just work with them right away. So you don't actually need to export anything into a different app, and you can sort of just do it in Framer already. Have you been using Framer at all?
Yeah, for some clients, I've been using Framer and building sites in it for sure, and I try to keep up a little with it. I'm not using it mainly as on daily basis, but I do try to stay on top of my game. And I think that if you have a client that wants websites built from you, I would totally skip Figma.
Mm. Really?
Like, yeah, I've been very hesitant to say this, but if you could search for Creative Mints on Twitter, Mike, he's been sharing his workflow a lot alongside Lee Black and other bigger names, and they've started using Framer primarily, like without using Figma, and like actually like doing illustration work inside of it, and even from just the basic concept to like full website. And I was like, there's no way. Why? I think this is like harder to do, no? And I was talking with Mike, and he said, um I should have done it way sooner because this is way quicker and way more comfortable. So it's probably like, yes, this is a great example. He uses Blender, Cinema 4D, and Framer with After Effects,
Mm.
obviously, and blah blah blah. But the whole thing is done in Framer. So he starts in Framer, blocking everything up, and I
Mm.
think he has like a video, short video showing how he, yeah, maybe down below it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just
Oh,
takes
fair
it
enough.
and like does it all in Framer. Obviously, you have to have a lot of experience and know what you do and
Mm.
what you want just to do this quick stuff. But well, I don't think I said it correctly. It's not a quick stuff. It's a fully made website or whatever.
Mm.
But they are completely skipping Figma and just designing in Framer fully functional site. And I'm
Okay.
like, I'm not sure if I could do that. It probably like you have to get used to it. But I found it
Mm.
super interesting with all of, as you said, all of the plugins and all you can use now. It may be more convenient to do so because you set up the variables and everything and just go and run with it.
Yeah, I don't know where. Uh, I thought about this a lot about it because a lot of work I do is I literally create a website design in Figma and then I port it into Framer. That's most of the work I currently do. Um, I learned it to do quite effectively, where I sort of structure the pages in Figma already in a way where the Framer plugin will convert it fairly nicely. Uh, but I never really I tried creating straight in Framer, but I never really like gotten into it. First of all, because the workflow is a little bit different, right? It's fairly similar. The shortcuts are fairly similar, but you are going to miss some features. But also, I just could not get into being able to explore different concepts properly. For this use case where he's building a page, I feel like he knows what this should look like already. Sure, that seems like a very nice use case and it will speed up the workflow. But for me, I often have no clue what the final product is going to look like. And I'm exploring a lot. I'm having like, 20, 30, 50 different frames and just trying stuff out. And I could not get into that with Framer. Maybe I just have not tried enough because obviously it's possible. I don't know.
I think it really comes down to, Mike has been doing this for a long time and he has a certain style set.
Hmm.
So he like, when you get to him, you know what to expect, like these beautiful things that he's doing. And most of it is like that was an instant follow right there. And most of these things are, fairly in the same style because the client wants that style, they love it, and he just delivers it. So I think it's just doing it a lot, and then you sort of know or like go with the flow, and if something feels right, you just
Hmm.
do it. I think this is like the use case, and that's why he can do it. But I would love to try this as well, like skip Figma completely because I don't really like working in Figma, honestly. I I feel like
Well,
it's super slow and like
well,
all of the
imagine it, if it was Sketch. I don't think it matters if it's Figma or Sketch.
right. Yeah, it probably doesn't. That's true. But I think this has one very good. Like, see, he's doing the illustrations in Framer as well. Like, he sketches it up
Mhm.
on paper and then like trace it in vector and
Mm.
like use the Framer page or whatever and components and
Yeah.
just swap it. But I think what is a huge time saver is that if you have it in Figma and you have all of the variables and everything else set up, and then you convert it, like transfer it to Framer, the variables and everything disappears. So when you do it in Framer, you don't have to set them up again, like
Yeah.
side by side, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
plus
That's.
it makes it fairly easy to be interactive. Figma
Mhm.
does as well, honestly. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, 100%. The part where you have to convert all of the variables or set up all of the variables again is so annoying. And whenever I port a design, I spent like 2 hours at least going through design, assigning the variables, and also changing the fonts because um, this is like a weird requirement that some companies have where they cannot or they don't want to show like a cookie banner in EU. So if you want to do it properly, you should import a local font into Framer and then use the local font. So you have to go through every single text on the page, make sure to change it. Sometimes you can do like a multi-select on text, but often they have different styles, so you have to do it like one by one basically. And that's like just super annoying busy work that could be entirely skipped by this. So maybe I'm gonna try it next time because I mean this is like really
yeah.
good work, right?
If there's a simple enough project, right? Just to try it out and like
Yeah.
make a personal one and try it. But he has more posts like these with the threads of like doing
Mhm.
Framer and identity stuff and all of that. Um, and yeah, I couldn't believe it myself as well. I was like, there's no way you're skipping that. And then I saw the post and like the breakdown, and then other people doing it as well. And like, this is all going to where I said previously, where you just use pen, paper, maybe a tablet with Procreate, and little bit of 3D as Mike, well, little bit of 3D, 20 years of experience, and then go with like code nonstop. Like a great use case is my colleague Mihal Malevich. He's doing the apps the same way. He's skipping designing completely from Sketch, and he just sketches it up on paper, and then goes to Claude, and mostly codes himself but has Claude like write it up and then he goes into the code and like does it himself to learn more and like be able to ship apps more.
Yeah.
And you're just skipping the sketch design process completely.
Mhm.
So maybe we are nearing that future for certain apps. Obviously you
Mhm.
can't really like there are certain companies that are hooked on the variables and libraries, right? So that's probably a no-go, but
Yeah,
even that you can have in Framer.
yeah. For the sketching part, I think it also really depends on the type of person. I myself never really gotten into drawing on paper, even though I tried because I think it's really cool having things on paper. But also, I just like having that infinite workspace in Figma or Sketch, whatever, and trying stuff out. And that's something that's a little bit more difficult to do on paper. Yeah, but otherwise, I think Framer is in a really interesting spot right now, and especially since they are like such a mature product or fairly mature at this point. Where even though I was thinking, if I replaced Figma with Framer, could I send it over to the client? Could they go in and comment? And like, yeah, they could because Framer has a comment feature where you can just have threads and stuff like that. So I don't actually see why not. So I'm going to test it out. And on the other hand, Figma is trying to get into the development space, right? But I think that's much more difficult for them,
Yeah,
and they are
yeah,
very. On the other hand, they are very immature in that space, uh, where my friend was recently thinking if he should do his we have site designed in Figma, and if he should redo it into Framer, or if he should try out the Figma pages because it's like just one presentation landing page, and he wants to add a blog. And there are like so many little roadblocks that you hit with Figma because it just does not have the niche features that you desperately need. And Framer has all of that. Now they're getting into design, so I'm curious how fast they will, progress on that part, and maybe will ditch Figma entirely eventually. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Totally.
All right. I think that's all the topics we have. If you don't have anything to add,
Yeah, that's all.
in that case, thank you for watching. We hope you liked the video. Make sure to drop us a like and subscribe if you want to see more. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.